So the Democratic Congress has some good news for us. This is from The Hill. They say 8 House Republicans voted with Democrats on Wednesday to support legislation that would require universal background checks for gun sales, despite opposition from the gun lobby. Nearly all the Republicans who broke with their party are centrists, including several who represent competitive swing districts. The number of GOP defectors was only slightly higher than the 5 Republicans, who had signed on as co-sponsors to the legislation. Those 5 are Representative Peter King, who co-authored the bill with Representative Mike Thompson, as well as Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, Brian Mass, Fred Upton, and Chris Smith. But 3 more Republicans joined them in supporting final passage of the measure Wednesday. Representative Vern Buchanan, that's an awesome name, Mario Diaz-Balart, and Will Hurd. So, let me tell you a little bit more about this legislation. It would require universal background checks for gun sales, including at gun shows, which there's a giant loophole there now, and including in private online transactions. So it passed the House. It's almost certainly going to die in the Senate, and even if it were to get through the Senate, Trump would probably veto it. So it's not going to go anywhere. But this is a political opportunity for the Democrats to put pressure on the Republicans. Because, again, this is an issue where polls show about 90 to 93% of the American people agree on the issue of universal background checks. So you can make that a political issue, and you can fight on that issue. And if you do that, you'll be successful. You'll absolutely be successful. So this is where Democrats are sorely lacking, and this is why their strategists suck. They'll do something like this, which is the right thing to do, and then it'll be news for 3.5 minutes. No Democrats will continue to talk about it, and then you have this political opportunity that'll go right by where they don't all focus on the same thing, hammer away on it, have meetings where they craft their arguments and their talking points and then go out in the media and repeat them. So, and that's something that the Republicans are actually great about. They're great at getting together, coming up with a strategy, repeating their talking points in the media until that becomes the story that everybody's talking about. You know, and that, like, we're seeing it right now with Democrats. They're arguing that Democrats now support post-birth abortion. There's a term for that. It's called murder. And no, they don't support it. That's illegal. That's already illegal. And if you knew anything at all about case law in the U.S. when it comes to the Supreme Court, if you knew anything at all about abortion law in the U.S., you would know, first of all, according to the Guttmacher Institute, which studies this, 99% of abortions in this country happen before 20 weeks, pre-viability. Okay? 89% happen before 12 weeks. And the 1% that happens post 20 weeks, most of them are earlier on, 25 weeks or so, and it's only for life of the mother, fatal fetal defect, 100% to protect the mother's health. Because most states, it's over 20 states, regulate late-term abortions and actually ban late-term abortions. Some states have different regulations with certain exceptions, but there are no states where it is legal to murder a baby. I have to actually say this out loud to people. How fucking crazy is this? But why are we even having this conversation? Because Republicans just did a giant effort for a week straight where they took comments out of context and then they ran with it and pretended that Democrats are all in favor of murdering babies. Whereas now we have a story where Democrats are on the right side of an issue, common sense gun reform, where 90 to 93% want universal background checks on gun purchases. They propose gun purchases. I haven't heard any Democrat talk about it. I had to read articles about it. I haven't heard a single Democrat talk about it. So, I mean, this is Democrats politically sucking, but in terms of the policy, they're right. And they should be playing politics along with this policy to raise awareness and to get people on their side. And I will say there is a little bit of a compromise in this bill. It does carve out exemptions for certain circumstances. So there's not a background check for transfers between family members. There's not a background check for use in hunting. And there's not a background check, quote, when necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm, such as domestic violence. So there's a few exceptions, but this is, closing many of the loopholes when it comes to background checks. It's an awesome, simple idea. It's a no-brainer, and unfortunately there won't be a big fight on it, but there should be, because when Mitch McConnell blocks this, he'll be blocking a piece of legislation which over 90% of the American people support, which means he's basically an authoritarian, tyrannical character who doesn't care about the will of the people, including the majority of his own party. So that should be the talking point. That's what Democrats should be saying, but instead they won't be saying much, and Mitch McConnell will get away with it, as he gets away with almost everything he does that's unpopular.